So obviously, this is one of those shows that's picking up quite a big kind of audience at the moment, and deservedly so. For those who are kind of big fans of the show, where are we as we enter into the fourth season?
We are in the year
2003.
Like, what year are we actually starting in, Maril?
2003.
2003. So it's like roughly 8 years after the end of season 3. The Martian base has gotten significantly larger. It's governed by a consortium of both nation states and Helios, which is a private corporation. And a lot of the characters' lives have changed, and people are in different places. And I think part of the interest of the show is tuning in and seeing where everybody is after almost a decade later.
So Maril, does it get to a point when you reach a kind of fourth season of a show where there's a kind of confidence and a kind of swagger that takes over, where everyone just knows what they're doing and they know how to execute it?
I mean, certainly, I don't know if you ever have, yes, but I mean, in terms of, we certainly know now more than we did season 1, certainly in terms of visual effects and filming on Mars and on the moon, and what that entails with the spacesuits and gravity and reflections of visors and things like that. So we've learned more. I don't know if it gets any easier. Maybe there's a little swagger now, but it's just exciting to be here. I think you kind of hope when you start off a show that you will get into multiple seasons and be able to tell more stories. So, and this season does not disappoint.
Yeah, because Ronald, I mean, when the show is popular with audiences, and I'm sure you've had so many kind of fan interactions now where you've spoken to people that are big fans of the show and have kind of spoken about their kind of love for it and where they want it to go and certain characters. Do you almost have to ignore what people say and what critics write about the show and stuff to avoid ever feeling like you're pandering to what you perceive people may want from the show?
I think, though, the problem is once you hear that feedback, it's too late to do anything. I mean, that season's already in the can. So, I always love to hear what people think, both the good and the bad. Obviously, you like the good better. But it's always interesting to hear what people think or how something you think is going to go a certain way and people react. That's why I always love going to screenings of the shows, because when audience laugh in places you don't anticipate, it's always really interesting. But I think we do listen. But once again, because it comes in after the show's finished or that season, it's a little hard to implement anything, but certainly I think, it's impossible not to completely be closed off from what people think about the show.
Yeah, Ronald, I was going to ask, because I think the show, despite kind of obviously offering a kind of alternate kind of universe in some regards, it always feels very tethered to reality. But I was wondering, when you reach the fourth season of a show, how important is it to maintain that? Because I always imagine that the further you go, the further away from reality you kind of head. Does it become more of a challenge to stay on the right side of believable?
Yeah, it is. But I think it's important for the series, because we had always said that this was an alternate history that really could have happened. And we wanted the audience to believe in that alternate place, and also to realize that these are also things that we can still do today. So we wanted to present this sort of, the moon base, and then the Martian base, and the spacecraft and asteroid mining and all that are real things we can actually do. Developing nuclear fusion is a real possibility. We wanted to present this in a way that the audience could sort of embrace and go, well, actually, that looks like a great world, but that's a world that we can actually have if we decided to do it. So yes, the further we go down our alternate timeline, the political and the history of it starts to diverge more and more, but we always try to tether it to real events. We try to make the music familiar to the time and the plays, to reference certain pop cultural events or historical events that really did happen, and kind of anchor it to a world that the audience recognizes.
So this one's for both of you. I'll start with you, Ronald. But of all the kind of hypothetical changes in this world that we see and for all mankind, is there any you most wish was true?
I wish we had a moon base and a Martian base, obviously, and I wish we were further along in the development of nuclear fusion, because that would really change the world in a profound way, and that would be a great thing for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I completely agree with what Ron said, but also for me, I just love the inclusion of women and more diversity, just in general in our show. And I do wish our real world was kind of more reflective of that. And I certainly think we've shown how by doing so, we've gone farther and faster. So yes, I wish our world looked more like that.
Yeah, I prefer your world. But it's funny, but it's actually one of the things I always loved. It's just when certain people were kind of alive. I know, obviously, sort of John Lennon survived in your show, and I noticed that today he has the leading vocals in a brand new Beatles song. So in some ways, it feels a bit like he is still with us.
Right.
But I don't usually take questions from the comment section on YouTube. But a poster underneath my interview of you, Ronald, for the second season of For All Mankind said, someone needs to ask more if Star Trek Phase 2 happened in this alternate timeline. So did it?
Yes, actually, somebody asked me that once before, and I thought that, yeah, Phase 2 did happen, except Leonard Nimoy did agree to be in the series, and that Wrath of Khan was their first motion picture.
You guys have worked together for some time now. How did you first come to find each other? And is there kind of a great joy in finding like-minded creatives in the industry? Is that one of the great kind of perks to this job?
Well, I've always said, we've had this working relationship for a long time. I don't like to say how long because I feel like it dates us a little bit, but it just works. I think we have very similar sensibilities. I'm very lucky to be aligned with a writer of Ron's talent. And, I hope that I allow him to do the things and concentrate on the things he wants to. And I try to do the things maybe he doesn't have time for. And because of that, I think that balance really works. And I think we both want the same thing, which is, at this point in our careers, I think we want to work with good people and work on shows that we truly believe in, because life is just too short to work, in a place or with people that you're not enjoying yourself. And I think we've just kind of aligned on that, and it's still working, and we're still having a lot of fun together.
Yeah, I mean, Ronald, it's not always a given, is it, that you kind of find people like you've sort of found Maril? I mean, do you feel quite fortunate when that kind of happens, when you just find a kind of someone who you can just bounce off and create art together like this?
Yeah, Ron, you're very fortunate.
I am very fortunate. It is. It's not easy to find that person that you can partner with, and that it just then becomes about the work. You have a good working relationship. You understand each other. You sort of know how this partnership will go forward, and it's been great. We've done several series together at this point, and hopefully we continue to do more.
Yeah. Well, that leads into my final, quite obvious question that I'm going to end on. But are you planning more? And I'm interested to know, when you are writing a show like this, do you think ahead when you're writing season 3 or season 4? Are you sowing seeds for storylines further down the line?
A little bit. I mean, you try not to get too ahead of yourself, because you have to concentrate on where you are right now. So we have game plans for what 5, 6, and 7, and beyond could even be, but you have to be willing to to sacrifice those ideas if something better is happening today on the show that you're working on right now, and you just trust that you'll be able to figure out the changes down the line. And that's how we approached the first 4 years of the show. We had an idea for what season 2 was going to be, and we sat down, and when we were writing season 2, we made changes to it, and some of those dominoed down the line, but the basic framework overall still held, and we're still sort of on the similar track that we started on, all those years ago.
Brilliant. Well, I look forward to seeing what's to come. Best of luck with the release of the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey, you guys!
Hey You Guys.